And now we can get to the preview of the Euroleague final, which is Olympiacos against Real Madrid. In my opinion, Olympiacos is the favorite team, and the fact that they have 4 centers, really physical, and most of them athletic, while Real has 0 true centers available, is a big factor. But before diving into these topics, I want you to share your little introduction to this final game.
Yes, it is the final that we weren't expecting. I'd say that if it was for me, Valencia would have been in the final, also to crown and to finish a beautiful season that impressed a lot of us this year. On the other side, Real Madrid showed us that a tougher team with more experience is always going to be very hard to beat and to win against them, to advance to the final. You have to show that you have something more. And they showed us in the series against Panathinaikos, but in a single game against Real Madrid, it was quite impossible. I have to say that, I have to admit that if it was another series against Real Madrid, it might be that Valencia could have adjusted and win against Real Madrid. I have to say we do not have any counter proofs, but that's my opinion. However, talking about the final, we don't have to be so sure, in my opinion, for Olympiacos, because they are going to play in obviously at home in a certain way, because it is going to be in Athens. But on the other side, there will be plenty of supporters for the Panathinaikos, obviously, because it will be played in Walkup. However, in my opinion, also Olympiacos did not play a beautiful game against Fenerbahce, and it was more of the limits and the poor percentages for Fenerbahce that was the key reason and the principal motive that Olympiacos is in the final right now. Obviously, they do not play bad, but they didn't show the beautiful game that we are used to see. So it might be that in the final they recover and start play better. But if they want to win, they surely will have to do much more, because right now Real Madrid is a team full of chemistry, hyped team also because of the win, and it is very built. The links between the players are very solid, also because of the injuries, and it could be also one of the last moments they are going to share together. So I wouldn't call an easy win for Olympiacos, and also a certain win, because also I can say never bet against Real Madrid. They are Real Madrid. They are one of the most powerful team always in Europe, and they could adjust also to the Olympiacos powers and counter moves. So obviously, if I have to say one team, it is obviously Olympiacos, because they are playing near home. They are going to have the MVP of the regular season, and they have, I think, also the best coach in this series, in the final. Sorry, but it is obviously a final, so it's going to be almost 50-50, maybe 55-45, but it's not a close game, as we have told maybe in the semi-final against Fenerbahce.
Yeah, and you said never bet against Real Madrid, and I had never bet against Sergio Scariolo, especially in a single elimination game where he could assemble the weirdest but at the same time most effective and efficient game plan. But as you said, Bartzokas is also an elite coach, and these are probably 2 of the best coaches in the world, in my opinion. But there are also some reasons to consider Olympiacos the favorite of this game. as I said, Real Madrid is without true centers. Most of the center mids would be played by Trey Lyles and Chuma Okeke probably. So the offensive rebounds could be great factor in this series, both because Real won't be able to grab a lot of them, and a big part of Real Madrid's game is grabbing a lot of offensive rebounds, but especially because Olympiacos could have tons of second chance points, especially when Nikola Milutinov is on the court. So this would probably be a big factor in this game, and Real Madrid defense will have to work a lot, not only in contesting the shot, but also in boxing out the Olympiacos players. But I want to kind of analyze also the matchups and the possible starting lineups between these two teams, because Real Madrid's lineup isn't easy to predict, but in my opinion, they would go with Campazzo, Feliz, Abalde, Hezonja, and Trey Lyles, in my opinion, and not Chuma Okeke as the 5 spot. So Feliz could make things very hard for Tyler Dorsey, as he did with Jean Montero in the semifinals. Lyles could physically keep up, at least initially, with Nikola Milutinov. So the goal of having not true center is to maybe have someone like Trey Lyles who can stay with Milutinov with, one bump if he's in post-up, and then wait for the double team to come. So Trey Lyles could be a solid solution, in my opinion, even though he's not a elite defender in Euroleague. So Lyles' role will be not only impactful on the defensive side, but also on the offensive side, because Lyles will have to space the floor and bring Milutinov, Donta Hall, Tyreek Jones out of their comfort zone and the paint to close out on him, because he's an elite 3-point shooter. And in my opinion, he will have to play with less post-ups than usual and more pick and pops and dynamic action that can give him space from 3. Also having him go through many off-ball screens, which is something that Nikola Milutinov isn't used to, screen navigation and similar things. So this could be factors in on the Real Madrid side. But on the other hand, Olympiacos lineup could be the same that we saw in the game against Fenerbahce. So Thomas Walkup, Tyler Dorsey, Papanikolaou, Vezenkov, and Nikola Milutinov. So Walkup could have a physical advantage on Campazzo, and he could possibly post him up and start the split actions that Olympiacos typically plays. Papanikolaou will probably guard Mario Hezonja, and that is why I think that Papanikolaou will start over both Fournier and Tyson Ward. The real question is who is Vezenkov going to guard, because if my lineups are correct, there are 2 possible weak links in the Olympiacos defense, because when you're playing against guards and wings, like in Real Madrid's case, Vezenkov is hard to match up with someone effectively, because he's not so quick with his feet. And the same for Milutinov, but Milutinov is way more physical. But getting back to the point, who is Vezenkov going to guard? The answer might be Abalde, or maybe Chuma Okeke if he plays together with Trey Lyles at the first stages of the first quarter. But obviously the biggest factor in this game could be Nikola Milutinov, both because he should be able to, I don't want to say easily, but at least easier than in the other games, to post up the Real Madrid centers, we could say, and most importantly, to give off the ball with the right timing when the double teams will come, when Scariolo will play with a man-to-man coverage. So if he starts making some mistakes or getting turnovers or getting punished on defense too much because of his slow feet, things could change very quickly in this game. But in this case, Tyreek Jones is probably quick enough to stay in front of Madrid's guard if he has to switch on pick and rolls. So Olympiacos might have another option also because their roster is so deep. And Tyreek Jones is also a decent post-up player, so he could also, on the other end of the floor, punish the Real Madrid's weak physicality with post-ups. And his rolls to the basket would be difficult to stop for small players, especially if the Olympiacos guards can throw alley-oops high up in the air for an athletic player like Tyreek Jones. So this is pretty much my matchup analysis of this game. I don't know if you have any other opinions about it.
Yes, I would try to sum up and by saying that if I were Bartzokas, I would love to have plenty of options, also because of the poor defensive impact of Mario Hezonja. So I will try to put him in pick and rolls. I would not love the couple of composed by Feliz and Maledon, both on the court. And if there are the occasion, I would love to attack Hezonja and trade eyes to see how Sergio Scariolo is going to limit Olympiacos offense. I think that he's going to adapt in some ways with the zone defense, even though that could boost the number of rebounds by Olympiacos, obviously because of the lack of cutting out the players from their bounding side. So it will be very interesting. I think that if Real Madrid wants to win, they need to keep the percentage from the 3-point line very high and have a positive impact from the bench, which if the starting lineup is going to be correct, the one that you mentioned before, it means that they are having just Tio Maledon and Chumo Keke and Gabriel Deck from the bench. So it's going to be a very short rotation. And also Sergio Llull, obviously, but with a limited minutes from him. So basically, they will need to be short and determined and not to commit many fouls. So I think, as you said before, Olympiacos is the favorite, but however not the clear favorite, because I would love not to bet against Real Madrid.